We're going to start just a couple of minutes later. We get kind of a backup there at the front door, so just kind of pretend like it's 10:20, 10:20, and you can talk and chat, and people will be in just a minute. So we're going to start as soon as we can. Good morning. We're not going to have many more chances to take advantage of something. I'm going to tell you about it in a second because I don't think we'll be wearing masks forever. But while we're wearing masks, I thought today would be a great day to practice behind the privacy of your facial mask, your silly smile. Just really let it go, because those smile muscles have atrophied during the pandemic. And so I want to see crinkles. I want to see evidence that there's a great silly smile going on here. It's just good to get it going. And a smile is an incredible thing. It really is. When you smile at another person, it just does something, and they smile back, and good energy and good interaction happens. So we're smiling about smile behind your masks today. And I'm not sure I have 100% participation here. I see some people maybe not smiling. Curmudgeons, contrarians, you put in a dour expression if you have to, but smile is a great thing. And so I want to encourage us to begin to prepare ourselves for life after the pandemic, when we can smile and show our faces to one another. But anyway, let's just take a moment to look around and make sure that we greet one another and make sure that everybody in this place feels welcome and included. Let's just take a moment to do that, and I'll ring the bell to bring us back to order. So good to see all of you this morning. Thank you for coming here. You'll be hearing more about our annual congregational meeting after the service today, but it's a big Sunday for us, and I am so happy to see all of you. Welcome.
To risk is to appear to laugh is to risk appearing the fool. To weep is to risk appearing sentimental. To reach out for another is to risk exposing our true self. To place ideals, our dreams, before the crowd is to risk loss. To love is to risk not being loved in return. To hope is to risk despair. To try is to risk failure. To live is to risk dying. Please join me in saying our affirmation. Love is our doctrine. Compassion is our way. Here we seek to create a joyful home for free religious exploration. Build a community of caring fellowship. Nurture the hopes and serve the needs of our world. It is our tradition at UUCS to light 3 chalices when we begin our Sunday service. The first is for this congregation, its members, its friends, and all of those in our hearts. The second is for our partner church in Šimanfalva, Transylvania, Romania. And the third is for children and youth who will inherit the world that we make for them. We light these chalices to affirm that we are open to new ideas, waiting to break through and enlighten us. We light these chalices because a new truth is ever waiting to break through and illuminate our minds. We light these chalices knowing that new love is ever waiting to break through and warm our hearts. May we welcome this light and the possibilities that it brings to us. Please join me in singing the flame into life.
Rise up, O flame, by thy light glowing, show to us beauty, vision, and joy.
Is it on? Oh, yay. Hi, everybody. Good morning. My name's Molly. My name's Ashley. Oh, sorry. All right. Well, I'm here to share a book with all the young and young at heart. Would you like to come up? This morning I'm reading Swirl by Swirl, Spirals in Nature by Joyce Sidman. What I kind of would like you to keep in your thoughts while we go back to the RE ring is what makes tiny snail shells so beautiful, and why does that shape occur over and over in nature? A spiral is a snuggling shape. It fits neatly in small places. Can you guys see? Okay. Good. Coiled tight, warm and safe, it waits for a chance to expand. A spiral is a growing shape. It starts small and gets bigger, swirl by swirl. A spiral is a strong shape. Its outer curves protect what's inside. It knows how to defend itself. A spiral reaches out too, exploring the world. It winds around and around and clings tight, grasping what it needs. It never has trouble holding on. A spiral is a clever shape. It is graceful and strong. It is bold and beautiful. A spiral moves. It swirls through water, gathering bubbles. It twists through air with clouds on its tail. It stretches starry arms through space, spinning and sparkling, forever expanding. Or it curls up, neat and small, warm and safe. A spiral is a snuggling shape. The end. Oh, this is our RE bulletin board that the kids have been working so hard on. So if you'd like to come see the children's thoughts and their covenants, it's right down in the hallway. Thank you. Can we gather for the love arch?
Wherever you walk, walk in love. Wherever you walk, walk in peace. Wherever you walk, walk in beauty all around you. Our hearts go with you. Wherever you walk, walk in love. Wherever you walk, walk in peace. Wherever you walk, walk in beauty all around you. Our hearts go with you.
Take a deep breath, and let's just be in this very moment of time, listening for the deeper rhythms of our lives, that we might tune our hearts to that which is meaningful. I invite you now to simply be with your breath as you breathe in and as you breathe out. You come into this moment by focusing your attention on the breath. And now that you're present, that we're present, I invite you to envision in your mind's eye the person that you know, one of the people that you know, who is hurting. We have those in our congregation who are in pain and near death. We have those who have lost a loved one, those who've lost their jobs, those whose relationships are falling apart, those who are trapped in painful circumstances and see no way out. Think of the person in your life who is going through a difficult time. Envision them in your mind's eye or think of them. And be aware of your natural feelings of compassion that arise when you think of this person. Let your feelings of compassion arise and let them guide you as you step through life, moment by moment. For compassion for ourselves and for others, this is our way. And gratitude is our way. A wise soul once said, "Want what you have, do what you can, and be who you are." Yes, want what you have, not what you don't have. May the gifts that flow your way be abundant. May we be aware of all the things that we want and that we have, and may we be grateful. May our gratitude blossom like mayflowers. Gratitude and compassion as we walk down our path together. Amen.
Good morning. I'm Jackie Klimowitz, a member of Lifeline's Lay Ministry, and we're a group of people that assist Rick supporting the congregation. And you can reach us by email, and there's instructions on the web page, or we wear lavender buttons so you can talk to us at the coffee hour. And you can write your concerns or joys in the book, it's in the foyer, or leave the message online. And we have two today. Rye, could you please stand? This is Rye Kovic, Britain. Yes. I'm delighted to announce that I have purchased a $15,000 Harley Davidson. I'm still broke, but my Harley is a lot more fun than riding the bus. Hallelujah. Congratulations. And Starla is at her son's graduation in Sacramento. He's getting his bachelor's in music education. She's one proud mama. And we will light one last candle for all the joys and concerns that are in our hearts today. Thank you.
Please remain seated for the pastoral hymn number 391 in the gray hymnal or on the screen. Voice still and small, deep inside all, I hear you call, singing in storm and rain, sorrow and pain, still we remain singing, calming my fears, quenching my tears, through all the years, singing, voice still and small, deep inside all, I hear you call, singing, in storm and rain, sorrow and pain, still we remain singing, calming my fears, quenching my tears, through all the years, singing.
What you risk telling your story, you will bore them. Your voice will break, your ink spill and stain your coat. No one will understand you. Their eyes become fences. You will park yourself forever on the outside, your differentness once and for all revealed. Dangerous. The names you give yourself will become epithets. Your happiness will be called bravery or denial. Your sadness will justify their pity. Your fear will magnify their fears. Everything you say will prove something about their God or their economic system. Your feelings that change day to day, kaleidoscope, will freeze in place, brand you forever, justify anything they decide to do to you. Those with power can afford to tell their story, or not. Those without power risk everything to tell their story, and must. Someone, somewhere, will hear your story.
Thank you, Janet. I don't know how you find such great readings all the time, but I really appreciate that. And Guy, oh man, I love hearing you play Janáček. That's great. And Mussorgsky and Beethoven, you've gifted us so much. So thank you for your beautiful music. So this congregation is a member of the Unitarian Universalist Association. Before 1961, when the two movements merged, the Unitarians and the Universalists were separate religious traditions. And anyone who studies the Universalist side of our tradition, I call it our working class side, you'll soon learn about our great 19th century forebear by the name of Jose Ballou. He's often called the father of American Universalism. It was his homespun theological treatises that provided this fledgling heretical. The Universalists were heretics, according to just about everybody. But Ballou's treatises provided our movement, this movement, the Universalist movement, with a strong theological foundation that still supports us today. Like many Universalist clergy, Ballou was self-educated, unlike the mostly Harvard-educated Unitarian clergy. And it was a real difference, but they finally got together in 1961. Ballou was especially renowned for his preaching and spreading the message that salvation is universal, that in the final reckoning, everyone makes it, that not a soul gets left outside of the circle of God's love. That was the Universalist message. It was a religion that rejected a belief in eternal damnation. That was crazy stuff back in the late 18th and 19th centuries. People had a hard time wrapping their minds around it who didn't approve of it, but a lot of people said, thank you for such a wonderful gospel. Ballou heard a call to preach when he was still fairly young. He was just 19 years old when he first appeared in the pulpit, and it was a memorable outing. I have committed Ballou's entire first sermon to memory. It was on that momentous Sunday when he was 19, when he entered the pulpit. He looked out at the assembled congregation. He became frozen in fear. And after several long, painful, silent moments, his father and his brother walked up and gently escorted the terrified young man down from this lofty pulpit from which he had failed to sing the gospel of universalism. He was so nervous, he couldn't even get a word out. And in 1986, when I preached my debut sermon as the intern minister of the First Unitarian Church in San Diego, I told the folks there about how Ballou had crashed on his first solo flight in the pulpit, and I said to them, since I have already managed to produce sound, you can honestly boast to others about your new intern minister that he had a more auspicious debut than even the great Jose Ballou. Because I talked. And I was scared as hell. I mean, that was like, I wasn't used to public speaking, and that was a large congregation, and it was really scary. Public speaking is easy for some folks, but it's been said that many of us fear it more than death. Well, that's not maybe quite true. Surveys show that we do have greater fears, but public speaking, that's high on the list. So when I entered the ministry, and for many, many, many years afterwards, I fell into the category of those who are highly fearful of public speaking, highly fearful. And I always thought, what was I thinking when I chose the ministry for a calling? It's so ironic. So I have suffered as I have faced this challenge. And here's the deal. I don't like suffering. I don't like challenges. I like comfort. I like ease. I like safe harbor, not the stormy seas. That's what I like. And yet somehow, I found myself launching out onto this voyage that took me out far beyond where I thought I could go. And when I tell you that I have suffered, I hope you don't think I'm asking for sympathy. In fact, I'm not asking for sympathy. In fact, I hope you have similarly suffered. And here I speak of what the psychologist Carl Jung called legitimate suffering, not debilitating suffering that I know too many people face from chronic pains and illnesses. I'm not talking about that kind of suffering. I'm talking about what Jung refers to as legitimate or noble suffering that entails facing the things you don't want to face, and yet you need to. if you're going to continue on a path of growth. And if you avoid this kind of suffering, says Jung, it will make you neurotic. And my personal experience corroborates that. If all you do in your life is stay in your comfort zone, that's going to shrink over time, and so will your spirit as you convince yourself again and again that you can't deal with whatever you need to deal with. But when you do face legitimate suffering that's right there on your path and you have to go through it, when you do face it, you discover something. You discover that, hey, I'm stronger and more resilient than I imagined I was. And you begin to grow in awareness and self-acceptance and understanding. And I still tend to avoid legitimate suffering as much as I can. But facing the challenge of crafting and delivering a message from the pulpit for 36 years has helped me grow, even as I hope that what I have offered you, my kind listeners, might have encouraged your own growth. The 20th century theologian Paul Tillich, he often spoke about the courage to be. That's a really helpful phrase for me, the courage to be. It's a guiding notion. Discovering and nurturing the courage to be who you're called to be, to follow your true path. And the practice of regularly shaping and sharing a message, deciding what you want to say, and do you really have the guts to say this? Do you really believe this? The whole process, it strengthened my courage, just as does, in a different way, a meditation practice. So imagine totally different scenarios. Imagine if this never had happened, and it's instead I had decided that I was just going to write sermons, and I was, instead of sharing them from a pulpit, my spiritual reflections, my sometimes half-baked, sometimes fully baked, sometimes raw opinions, my passions, my hopes, my fears, my dreams for all of us. What if I had just shared that in front of a mirror or spoken to an empty room? Would I have grown? Well, speaking to no one but myself. Certainly this wouldn't be a benefit to others. And frankly, without the spiritual grounding provided by community, I'm quite sure I would have lost my way, as have many who imagine that the spiritual path can be a solitary sojourn. Humankind's earliest monastic communities, formed after so many solitary seekers, fell off the cliff of sanity into realms of madness, because when you're all alone, you eventually lose your way. We are social beings, and we need community. We grow in community. It's great if you have a solitary spiritual practice, but it's essential to be part of and serve the larger community. But I haven't spoken to a mirror. I've spoken to you, the congregation, over the years, and you have mirrored back to me your love and your respect, your support, your helpful feedbacks, your illuminating insights. In 36 years of speaking from the pulpit in 2 congregations, no one has ever said an unkind word to me afterwards. Not once. Sometimes folks have taken issue with something I said or corrected me, but that's a good thing. I welcome that. And when I speak from the pulpit, I take great care not to tell you what to think or feel. I simply share my true thoughts and feelings as best I can, and I trust that you will know whether or not this applies to your life. In our Unitarian Universalist tradition, we honor and observe what Roger Williams, an early champion of religious freedom, he called it soul liberty. Soul liberty. The right to sneeze whenever you want to. Gesundheit, Ed. Soul liberty, the right to speak up when you need to. You can listen to the wisdom and counsel of others. It's a good thing to do so, but no one but you gets to decide, gets to choose what you will believe. That's the Unitarian Universalist way. So my sermons, my messages are not pronouncements of truth, but rather my attempts to articulate the truth as best I can. And when it is done responsibly and respectfully, this very ancient practice of creating time and space to speak from the heart of matters of great import in a communal setting, it's a sacred practice. When I was installed as your minister some years ago, I vowed, it was in our installation literature, I said, I vowed to make mine a representative and a unifying voice. And I hope that mine is also an uplifting voice, because the great story of all our lives is a love story. And so sermons, homilies, they may have intellectual content, but primarily what is offered from the pulpit should come from the heart and be addressed to the heart. It's a heart-to-heart matter. Many, many years ago, in the early 1980s, I first realized I had a call to a preaching ministry after I delivered a short lecture. It was to a group of friends, and I wanted to tell them about Beethoven's great choral masterpiece, the Missa Solemnis. It was about to be performed in Atlanta. It's just, oh my God, it's just such a wonderful piece of music. It so transformed me. So I really wanted to be able to tell others about this great piece of music. I love to tell people about what I find to be great and wonderful. That's why I gave that talk. I didn't like public speaking. It wasn't a very large crowd, but I did give a little talk, and my desire to share overcame my fear. And I noted in my little talk that on the manuscript copy of this composition that Beethoven labored over for 5 years, he wrote the words. This music, I mean, it just flows out. Imagine a full orchestra and chorus singing their hearts out. Such beautiful, transforming music. And Beethoven wrote on the autograph score, he said, coming from the heart, may it go to the heart. Coming from the heart, may it go to the heart. And if what is spoken from the pulpit isn't coming from the heart, it's just a head trip. The head has an important role to keep us from going off kilter, but you have to stay grounded in the heart, lest you take a heartless path. Even as I have recognized that my call to provide a representative is to provide a representative and a unifying voice, I have also come to recognize that mine should certainly not be the only voice. We need to hear many voices, really all of our voices in one way or another, especially now. So next month in our Sunday service on the June 12th, we're going to officially launch a new ministry, and it's unlike any that I know of. I don't know of another Unitarian Universalist congregation that has such a ministry. In order for me to tell you about it, in order to give you a fuller understanding of what this new ministry is about, I need to back up just a little bit for a moment. I'll back up in time. Many years ago, when I began my academic studies for the ministry at Emory University's Candler School of Theology in Atlanta. So there I was. I got into this theology school. I began my studies. Here I was, a Unitarian Universalist with Buddhist leanings, and I was getting into this liberal-leaning Christian seminary, and I didn't know what I was getting into. But it turned out to be a mostly wonderful experience, especially because of my encounter with two truly remarkable teachers, one of whom was Dr. Fred Craddock. He was a professor of homiletics, which is preaching, and he was also a professor of the New Testament. He was a real scholar. Dr. Craddock was not only a master in the craft of preaching, but he was also a person of great depth and integrity and faith. And all the students and the faculty admired him for this. And so the natural authority he had because of who he was, combined with his masterful skill in the art of homiletics, he was a short man with a high-pitched voice, made him into a very powerful preacher. And he was just the teacher that I so fearful of public speaking. I needed to have, because his teaching would give me enough confidence to step into the pulpit. So I got to study with Dr. Craddock for 2 semesters, and twice a week for 90 solid minutes, he held us spellbound. He was so skillful at sharing his wisdom in such a way that you were never bored. Never. It was a remarkable thing. 90-minute lectures can get boring. His never were. His never were. You learned, and you were challenged. I remember at the beginning of the semester, you could have heard a pin drop after he told us what he told us. At the beginning of the semester, he said, you're going to have, at the midterms, you're going to have a practice sermon. Everybody's going to have a chance to preach. And if I sense that you lack authenticity or integrity, I will recommend that you leave theology school and find another calling. That sure set a tone. But that was right, wasn't it? I mean, if you're inauthentic and insincere, he should do that. He was that kind of a person. But fortunately, I made it through anyway. I got an A-. I was proud of that. He was just so masterful at holding our attention and enabling us to be excited about the possibilities of what you could do from the pulpit. He was widely known and admired. There was an international poll of scholars when he was living and practicing, and he was named one of the 12 most effective preachers in the English-speaking world. And he deserved it. When he died in 2015, in the obituary, CNN referred to him as a preaching genius. And he really was. I'm so grateful to have studied with him, and I have faithfully remembered what he taught me. On a sabbatical some years ago, I reread his 3 major books on preaching. I reviewed all my old class notes, and I condensed all this down into a teaching manual. And let me back up here and tell you what really excites me about his philosophy of preaching is how congruent it is with democratic Unitarian Universalist principles, and that he always said, don't condescend to your listeners and tell them how to live their lives. Always, he said, allow your listeners room to decide for themselves. Don't patronize them. So I got all this Craddock material together and put it together in a file, 30-page file. I called it Condensed Craddock. And my original intention was to share this preaching wisdom with my ministerial colleagues in workshops, because the training in homiletics and preaching offered by most seminaries is generally not that good. Homiletics, preaching, is kind of like an afterthought. It's a practical thing. They're more interested in the lofty ideas, not how you communicate those lofty ideas. And so I've talked to many clergy over the years, and I realized, wow, I had a really great teacher. And I wanted to share it with my colleagues. It's worth sharing. Just like with Beethoven, when I discover something great, I just want to share it with other people. I have to. But then, in the past several years, my ministerial life has changed in ways I never would have imagined. It's a long story. Some of you know part of it. I won't go into details here. But I have come to have genuine concerns about the ideological conformity of our professional ministry and our association, and at the growth of ministerial power at the expense of the laity. This is happening, and I'm concerned about it. George Bernard Shaw noted that all professions are conspiracies against the laity. Think about that one. And at certain moments in time, there can be more than a grain of truth to that as far as religious professionals are concerned. And this happens to be one of those moments in time for us, when professionals are conspiring against the laity. And so it's become clear to me that the best way that I can serve our movement, and our congregation is to share as freely as possible the skills and whatever wisdom I have, that so members here are empowered to be partners in this ministry of a spoken word. And on June 12th, we will formally launch this new ministry, which we will simply call Homilists and Storytellers. Homilists and Storytellers. 10 members, I think it's 9 members here, have completed a 4-week training last fall at our School of Embodied Homiletics, and they'll be sharing their own messages from our pulpit in the coming year. And every year we'll open it up to others and invite you to join. Maybe you have a message to share. Maybe you would like to stand in this place and share a message. It's something to think about. It'll help you grow. It'll help you find your voice. In truth, our ministry here is always about helping us find our voices, and we're creating another opportunity for some of us, maybe you, to find your voice here in this congregation. That's what we're all about. And we will be enriched, and we have been enriched, by hearing many voices in our congregation. And it will be good for those of you who feel a call to this ministry to consider becoming a homilist storyteller, because we all have a story to tell. We all have a message to share. I talk to people a lot, and I discover that that's quite true. Everybody has a message to share. Everybody has a story to tell. And this will give you the opportunity to find your true voice, to grow in your courage to be as you express yourself. We'll all grow. We'll all grow in spirit. And that's why we're here, to grow together in spirit. May it be so. Please join me now for just a moment of quiet reflection. In our lives, we often face daunting circumstances, and we feel small and diminished, afraid to speak, afraid to be. And yet somehow, somewhere within us, there's that part of us that rises above our fears and leads us beyond. Leads us to express ourselves honestly and authentically, that we might live full lives together in wholeness with one another. So as you walk your path, may you discover who you are. May you discover what you really think and feel. And may you find the courage to share who you are with this world. May it be so. May it be so. Amen.
As Unitarian Universalists, we are a people of many paths, many beliefs, and many ways to look at life and our world and spirituality. We are also a generous people. Each Sunday, we share our gifts with others. Your donations today will be supporting Salem Harvest. Salem Harvest is one of the largest volunteer-powered harvesting organizations in the state. They connect farmers and backyard growers with volunteer pickers to harvest fruits and vegetables that would otherwise go to waste. As always, we accept donations for the Marion Polk Food Share in the little red wagon that will be coming to the front of the sanctuary. Donations may be made during the passing of the baskets or by logging on to uusalem.org and following the prompts.
And while the offering basket is being passed, we'll also have members of the Committee on the Ministry who are here today to distribute a Covenant of Right Relations card that we've been working on for a long time as a congregation. So while the music starts, they'll be playing a card. This is a covenant that we have agreed and we wrote, and the congregation and the Committee on the Ministry. So please do take a card. Thanks. Let's get started now. You don't want to miss next Sunday. I haven't written the sermon yet, but I'm sure it's going to be a great one. So let's do show up next Sunday. And Barbara Stebbins-Bowes will be the celebrant. That's another reason to show up. She always has great readings. So please do show up next Sunday. We love it. It's just great seeing people here. I can't tell you what a boost it is instead of preaching into a camera. So we do have our flower communion coming up on June the 5th, and you can send in some pictures to help us with the service, because we'll be able to display a lot of wonderful pictures, and we'll have a lot of, don't forget to bring a flower when you come that Sunday too. We'll have extras out front just in case you forget, but that's a big Sunday coming up. So next slide, let's see what else is happening. You can just keep up to date with us by contacting our office, getting on the newsletter and the e-blast mailing list, so you'll be up to speed on everything. The big news today is that this is the day for our annual congregational meeting, and so if you are not a member, you can still come. We have food, and you can watch how things are going. And if you are a member, yes, we really need you to come, because we have to have a quorum to elect new officers to our Board of Trustees and pass our budget. So please do stick around for that. And I think that's all for the announcements, unless I'm forgetting something big. So.
Rick is going to light the social justice lantern now. We light this lantern each week from our community chalice as a symbol of the light that each of us, each of you, takes out into the world through our many ministries. As is our custom, we will now extinguish the chalices we lit as we began our service today. I hope that the words you heard here today sparked the beginnings of a flame in each of you. I hope we kindled the notion that sharing your stories may bring comfort, expand horizons, and build community. I hope you fan that flame and share your story with others. May it be so.
Please join in singing the closing hymn, number 108 in the gray hymnal, My Life Flows On in Endless Song. My life flows on in endless song, above its lamentation. I hear the real, though far off hymn that hails a new creation. Through all the tumult and the strife, I hear the music ringing. It sounds an echo in my soul. How can I keep from singing? What though the tempest round me roars? I know the truth it liveth. What though the darkness round me close? In the night it giveth. No storm can shake my inmost calm, while to that rock I'm clinging. Since love prevails in heaven and earth, how can I keep from singing? When tyrants tremble as they hear the bells of freedom ringing, when friends rejoice both far and near, how can I keep from singing? To prison cell and dungeon vile, our thoughts to them are winging. When friends by shame are undefiled, how can I keep from singing?
Please remain standing. Join hands if you're comfortable with that. As we say our closing words, or touch shoulders, or just feel closeness. May faith in the spirit of life, hope for the community of earth, and love for the sacred in one another be ours now and in all the days to come.